Let's go to Rick from Canada saying, why do atheists dodge evidence for God?
Ooh, that's a big
Well,
question.
let's see
Sure.
if you, that's a big question. That's a, yeah. What evidence though?
Hey,
Hi, Rick.
hey guys. Hey, how you doing? Good.
Good. Tell us,
Yeah.
what evidence are we dodging?
Yeah, so I want you guys to show a lot, right? And I mean, there's an abundance of evidence for God if you search for it, but I feel like you guys just pass the buck rather than searching for knowledge yourselves, and you claim the burden of the proof as everybody else to educate you, which I find strange because you wouldn't do that in any other aspect of your life, right? So why is it?
That's an interesting question. Let's start with. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about that word evidence. Armin, I feel like I heard you talk about this not too long ago, the way that different people use that term evidence, and whether having a feeling in your heart actually constitutes evidence, or if there's like a certain quality. What do you mean, Rick, when you say evidence for God?
Well, evidence is the proof of the unseen, right? Like it's stated by Paul, right? Paul says it's the evidence of things unseen, but then Paul himself went on to find evidence.
He was describing faith there. He said faith
That's
is the evidence of things that are unseen.
I think we know the Bible a little bit better than you. That's the definition of faith, I think. Yeah, that's not the definition of evidence.
Faith is the evidence of things that are not seen. So what is the word evidence doing in this sentence?
So evidence,
So evidence is a noun. What does that noun mean? Can you please just, like a dictionary definition, what does the word evidence refer to?
So evidence is things that conclude truth, right? Things that attribute to discovering or concluding a certain topic, right? So when you're searching for evidence of God, right, what avenues of evidence have you guys exhausted? That's what what have can you tell me what
we're asking? We are asking you. Hey, wait! You're in the middle of answering a question. Just because you can't answer the question, that doesn't mean that you can now all of a sudden ask us a question. So that's usually a tactic people use when they realize they can't answer a question. Can you answer Christy's question first?
If you can't keep up, that's on you, man. I just answered what evidence is. It's ideas or facts or proofs that conclude a topic.
I mean, I'm getting a sentence, but it's a lot of word salad. I'm not really following this notion of evidence. If we want to say that evidence is any item, any piece of information, any data point that might be extrapolated out or interpreted to mean the existence of something, then okay. But what we have to really do when we're using it in that way is look at the quality of evidence. Like if I see some little scratch marks in the mud, that might be evidence that there was some sort of beast in my backyard. But it's much more likely that those scratch marks were just made by the rake that I was using. And so are those scratches evidence that there could possibly have been some sort of creature in my yard? Well, if we found tufts of hair, if we found a giant pile of cougar shit, if there was something else to go with it and we put all of that together, we might say that there is now sufficient evidence to believe that there is a wild animal in my backyard. But if it's just scratches in the mud, I'm not going to leap towards cougar. And when somebody calls me and tells me that they had a dream that they talked to God and they want to say that that's evidence of a God in their life, I'm not going to argue that that's not evidence, but I am going to say it's insufficient evidence. So I do not dismiss or deny that there is, quote, evidence for God. For a long time, I believed that there was a God, and I believed that in large part because I had these deep emotional experiences that were very personal to me and very important to me. But now I understand that deep emotional experiences are insufficient evidence for the existence of the supernatural. Does that help clarify this claim that you're throwing at us, that we just dismiss the notion of God because we don't have any evidence, or we dodge that evidence?
I agree with you. Personal experience isn't evidence for anyone except perhaps the person experiencing it. I've never called in with personal experience. But as far as the sciences go, there's overwhelming evidence. Every single science you can interpret as what the Bible says, right?
Give us one. Give us one. Give us one.
Oh, I've given you one. Okay, can you tell me, like, so energy, right? Energy,
Okay,
we discovered
energy.
it was in the beginning. Yeah, so we discovered it's in the beginning. It created everything. It's eternal. It can't be created or destroyed. It's everywhere, in everything. It drives all life. It leaves your body when it dies.
Yeah.
This is the biblical God. Like,
Energy didn't.
The existence of evidence is what?
Energy didn't create everything. What do you mean by create everything? Do you mean energy brought things out of nothing to something? Are you saying everything is energy and matter? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, everything is energy and matter. Absolutely. I understand.
Okay, that's better. That's a
energy and
little
matter.
bit better. Okay, that's great. What is God? What is God?
God is an eternal being, but when you read the Bible, the description that's
No, I'm not going to read the Bible. Wait a minute. What is God? What define God?
Define God. He's eternal.
Mm-hmm.
He's the creator of all things. In the beginning was only him.
Creator.
He can't be created or destroyed. He's the driving force of all.
What do you mean by creator? By creator, do you mean a conscious being? Is it a conscious being?
That created all things. Exactly.
Okay, so is energy a conscious thing?
I think there's sufficient evidence to support that energy is a conscious thing.
Where's that evidence?
Do you have evidence?
Where's the evidence that energy? No, where's the evidence that energy is conscious?
So there's a discussion right now about the brain. Is the brain our consciousness, or is the energy driving the brain the consciousness? Have you guys ever heard of the slime mold?
I'm asking you a question. Okay, so beyond the brain, the energy that is not in a form, the energy and matter that is not in the format of a brain, all right? How do you know that's conscious?
Well, okay, so there's a slime mold. All it is a cell and energy. That's what's in it. It's a single cell, and it multiplies. This thing, it's been called by the head biologist a biological computer. It makes decisions, right? They don't know what this is. They have no clue.
No.
They know it's thinking.
Processing information is not the same as consciousness. Technically, everything in the universe is information, and it's being processed. That's not what we mean by consciousness.
Yes, yeah, it is. Consciousness is something that's in a being that makes decisions, right? That's aware of its surroundings. And that's what this thing is doing.
Well, that's an attribute of it.
Decisions.
Well, okay, so the way that you're describing, the way that you're redefining consciousness, basically you're saying everything is conscious, that if everything is conscious, the word conscious doesn't mean anything anymore. Because the word, if a word has utility, if it could separate, if it could turn the world into the things that are it and the things that are not it. If everything is conscious, then this word means nothing at all. If you're God, if you're defining God as everything, then the word God is meaningless, because now there's no thing that is not God, right? If you say, and also what's the point of calling everything God? We already have the word everything. If you're trying to say your definition of God is everything and everything exists, therefore God exists. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm a believer in your God. Everything does exist, and therefore your definition of God is pointing to something that is real. But that's just playing with words. That would be the same as me calling my cat God. I'm like, well, God exists. I'm like, well, how do you know that? Well, my cat exists, and I named it God, so God exists. Naming things that we know exist God and saying that you're a believer in God because now we know that things exist is not very meaningful. That's not what we are trying to do. This show is about is to try to understand whether or not the God that religion has been defining for ever since they came up with God, the God concept, whether that exists. If you're just redefining things that we know exist as God, and saying you believe in that, well, congratulations. Yes, your God is real. But these words are not helpful. They have no utility. You're both redefining the word God to mean everything, and also the attribute consciousness. You're also defining in a way that any processing of information becomes consciousness, which is happening everywhere in the universe, and therefore everything is conscious. Therefore, the word loses all its utility.
That's not what I said whatsoever. I believe that God is the head, is the consciousness, and through God, He gave him a piece of Himself to create.
Is there anything that is not God? Is there anything that is not God?
Nothing is God except for God. We are borrowing it, like it says the dust.
So you just said matter. You just said everything is matter and energy. Okay, and that's everything. How does that prove that there's a God?
Well, I just explained this to you, man. Do you want me to go through it again? The nature of energy.
You didn't explain you didn't explain a single thing. So try again.
You just can't keep up, my friend. I just explained the nature of energy. If you need to go research it,
Rick, there are a lot of people listening right now, and some of us are kind of dumb. If your job here is to try and explain something to a large audience and convince people that you're right, then you're gonna need to explain it to us like we're dumb. If that is difficult for you, I'm sorry, but just calm down, slow down, talk to us like we're people, and see if you can get us to agree with your line of thinking. Otherwise, you're just being obnoxious, friend.
Try again.
In all fairness, he started the obnoxiousness right off the hibbity. But anyways, so energy, it can't be created or destroyed. It's eternal. It's everywhere. It's in everything. It's the driving force of all life. It leaves the body when it dies, right? This is the biblical description of God throughout the Bible, right?
Or will it leave the body when it dies? Like, it leaves the body in the sense that the body decomposes and it's like reconverted into other forms of energy. It's consumed by microbes and by animals and all of these things, and it just kind of continues in the food chain.
Yeah.
Right, but what's the point? Your description doesn't really is not a very accurate of how scientists will describe what's happening. But let's go with it. Okay, all of that. What you're gonna get? What are you gonna get from all of that?
My description is exactly right. But so the brain, you're right. Once it decomposes, energy does leave. You're absolutely correct.
What's the point? You're not making any points, Rick. You think like you're making a point, but you're not making any points.
I just did. I explained energy. So we got past.
No, you think you did.
Then you asked me if energy is conscious. I gave you the slime mold, which is just energy, and it's thinking. Go watch some talks.
Okay, Rick, you're just saying things, and it's not connecting to God being real at all. There's a claim that God is real, okay? And you're saying things about energy moving around, okay? It's not creating things, but again, your description is inaccurate, okay? Because when God creates things, it's not the way. There's two different things that we usually mean by creating. When God created the world, we're talking about things coming out of nothing. Your version of creation is basically reassembling things that already existed before. But again, I'm not going to get into the detail because you're not even making the connection. How is anything you're saying relevant to the existence of God? Are you going to say it, or are you going to just act like you made the point and just go with that?
Sure.
Because you're not making any points. You're pretending like you're making points.
Okay, here we go. So do not I fill heaven and earth, says the Lord. He gives to all things life, breath, and all things. Through him, to him, and of him are all things. Father of all, who is above all, through all, in you all. The worlds were framed by the word of God, so the things which are seen were not made of things which appear. All things were made by him. Without him was not anything that was made. To dust we shall return, and your spirit shall return to God who gave it. And on and on. The Bible is full of these descriptions of energy. So can you?
This is so ridiculous. Okay, many religions have deities that claim that they created everything, and then you put that next to the idea that matter and energy is everything, and you're like, oh, look, it matches. It doesn't, Rick. It does not. What are you talking about? What is so special about a religion that claims that our God made everything? Islam makes the same claim. Judaism makes the same claim. There are creator gods in Hinduism. What's so special about your God? Just because we have a thing that is matter and energy, and you're saying that's the entirety of the universe, which is, again, I'm not going to get into the details of how accurate that is, but these are two statements that are not like each other. But you are just trying to force it to the audience to make it seem like they are like each other. They're not. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm going to try to explain this again for you. Okay, try to listen. So energy has a description. Whatever you want to call it, I just explained it, okay? The Bible gives the description of what we know as energy. Things like slime mold show that there is a consciousness in the energy. These are the things that connect the Bible to this. I don't care what Islam says or Hinduism.
I'm
Right?
gonna
Yeah,
just
they
let
say-
go of the whole slime mold explains or has consciousness and just let that slide. The Bible also describes like the existence of oceans, and it talks about certain animals existing. So do many other scriptures. Like you're not connecting the dots the way that Armin is asking you to. The Bible can describe energy accurately or inaccurately. What does that change? There are plenty of books that describe energy, some of them with a lot more specificity and accuracy than what you're describing.
Okay. So thousands of years ago, the Bible made these predictions about the nature of God. Thousands of later, we would discover this and call it energy. That's the point. Evolution makes a prediction, and you find a kimono dragon, and you know that's sufficient for you. You say it was a transition, right? But when the Bible makes a prediction thousands of years ago of a scientific fact, a scientific truth,
This is not a prediction, Rick. Not at all. Not even close. If it wasn't energy, the world would have been made of something. First of all, the world is not, everything is not energy, and it's energy and matter, and also some other things that I'm not going to go into the details right now. But if at the end of the day, the entirety of the universe would have been something. So whatever that thing was, it would have made it seem, based on your standard, it would have made it seem like the Bible was saying something profound. It's not. You're just acting like this is so profound that there's matching some scientific claims that we have proven. It doesn't match at all. No matter how much you try to make it seem like it, it doesn't. And even if it did, it wouldn't prove anything. I could find better things. You're doing such a horrible job. You want something in the Bible that actually matches scientific finding, and it might blow people's minds? Look at the story of Noah. Here, I could make up stuff. Noah's ark is like the first primordial cells, and the DNA that was the DNA or RNA in the first primordial cells is kind of like the animals that were in that ship. And look, when were the first primordial cells formed? When the earth was filled with water. The entirety, most of the planet was covered by water. Oh, so look, you have the flood, Noah's flood. We have Noah's ark, which is like that first cell, and the animals within the ark, which is kind of like the nucleic acid within the cell, the animals, which all animals eventually came from it. God is trying to show you that that's how the first cell was formed, because that nucleic acid within the first primordial cell is where eventually all the animals or all living things come from. You want to make up made up miracles here? I did a better job from you. This matches scientific findings better than your made up story. Yeah, and I just made that up. I made that up.
This is brilliant. The Bible.
It's embarrassing. Oh my God! Let me go.
Yeah.
Get out of here. This is embarrassing. Fair. You guys don't have anything. You guys have nothing.
Yeah, but we're just dodging the evidence, right?